Welcome to Xi Jinping Briefing. The content of the briefing includes China's striking advances in green technology. Trump received millions from China and other foreign governments while president, report finds. America braces for Taiwan's election and vice versa. China hits out at U.S. harassment of Chinese students at American border. Taiwan's Matsu Islands prepare for China to invade, we have to fight. China's striking advances in green technology. Financial Times. China's share of renewable energy capacity, including solar, wind, and hydro, reached approximately 50% of its total generation capacity in 2023, surpassing that of coal power for the first time, according to China's official news agency, Xinhua. Despite being the world's largest emitter of CO2, China's progress in deploying clean tech is significant. New research by consultancy Rystad Energy found that renewable energy was more profitable than coal and gas for 14 Chinese electricity generators. China's state-owned enterprises are also helping to accelerate the adoption of clean tech, capitalizing on the profit motive and the country's political imperative. Trump received millions from China and other foreign governments while president, report finds. The Sydney Morning Herald. Former U.S. President Donald Trump received almost $8 million in payments from foreign governments during his time in office, with most of the money coming from China, according to a report from the Democratic members of the Congressional Committee investigating Joe Biden's business dealings. The report, titled White House for Sale, claims that Trump violated the U.S. Constitution by profiting from payments made to 4 of his properties. The payments coincided with a softening of Trump's stance on China. Trump is yet to respond to the allegations. America braces for Taiwan's election and vice versa. Economist. The upcoming elections in Taiwan and the U.S. are raising concerns about the potential for a crisis over Taiwan. While both countries have recently made efforts to stabilize relations, tensions between China and the U.S., as well as military tensions across the Taiwan Strait, continue to grow. China claims Taiwan as its own, and the U.S. has expressed concerns that Chinese President Xi Jinping has ordered the People's Liberation Army to develop the means to invade Taiwan by 2027. Many in Washington worry that a clash over Taiwan is looming. In Taiwan's election, Lai Ching-te, deputy to President Tsai Ing-wen and member of the independence-minded Democratic Progressive Party, DPP, is leading in the polls. A victory for Lai could lead to escalation, as he has been described as a destroyer of peace by China. Lai has recently emphasized the fudgy status quo, stating that Taiwan is already a sovereign country and does not need to declare independence. However, this position still angers mainland China and could result in increased Chinese economic or military pressure. Hou Yuih of the Kuomintang, KMT, who opposes both independence and China's offer of unification under a one-country, two-systems arrangement, is Lai's nearest rival. While he is preferred in Beijing, his presidency may not bring greater calm, as he may be unable to deliver the concessions that China wants. The U.S. elections could also unsettle things, as President Joe Biden may yield to Chinese pressure on Taiwan or overreact during the presidential race. Former President Donald Trump, who has been critical of America's alliances and accused Taiwan of stealing America's semiconductor industry, may not defend the island. However, there are also calls in Congress to give Taiwan greater support and diplomatic recognition. Overall, the delicate balance between Taiwan, China, and the U.S. is at risk of being upset, potentially leading to a crisis over Taiwan. China hits out at U.S. harassment of Chinese students at American border. South China Morning Post. China has accused U.S. authorities of harassing Chinese students at the border and denying entry to tens of Chinese nationals each month. The Chinese Foreign Ministry claims that Chinese students with valid travel documents and visas are being mistreated by U.S. border authorities, including interrogations, detentions, forced confessions, and deportations. China has called for the U.S. to cancel an executive order that prevents postgraduate students and researchers allegedly linked to the Chinese military from entering the country. The ministry argues that this order undermines an agreement between the leaders of China and the U.S. to increase people-to-people exchanges. Taiwan's Matsu Islands prepare for China to invade, we have to fight. The Independent. Tensions are escalating in the Indo-Pacific region as confrontations between China and its neighbors continue. Taiwan has become a focal point of this tension, with Beijing increasingly carrying out aggressive military exercises around the country. China has declared that its armed forces will be ready for a full-scale invasion of Taiwan by 2027. As the election campaign in Taiwan ramps up, China has increased its military activity, infringed on Taiwan's air and naval space, and launched cyber attacks and disinformation campaigns against the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, DPP. The Taiwanese government has raised the length of national service to 12 months, and enrollment in courses for emergency service volunteers and basic medical treatment has risen sharply in the last year in preparation for a possible conflict. While some Taiwanese citizens are confident in their military's ability to defend against a Chinese invasion, others fear that a war could be sparked by Taiwan declaring independence. The opposition Kuomintang, KMT, party, which ruled China under Chiang Kai-shek, is now deemed to be the party closest to Beijing and is accused of appeasement. The KMT leader of Linqiang County government, which oversees Matsu, has spoken warmly of the benefits of closer ties with the mainland proposed by China's President Xi, while the DPP parliamentary candidate in Matsu has dismissed the proposal as impractical and unnecessary. America has a new axis of evil to prevent. Bloomberg. The risk of a global conflict, possibly leading to World War III, has increased due to tensions between Russia and Ukraine, and Israel and Hamas, according to an opinion piece in Bloomberg. The article suggests that conflicts can quickly escalate and draw in other belligerents, as happened in World War I. The author proposes that an axis of evil consisting of Iran, Russia, China, and North Korea could potentially form if the US is distracted or weakened, and recommends building alliances to counter each adversary separately. A last best hope is an axis of stability, with dual Sino-American leadership. Relax, Western values are not under threat, just Western dominance. SCMP opinion. Western leaders and pundits are in panic mode as they perceive non-Western governments, cultures and societies as challenging and subverting Western values. However, it is unclear what values they are referring to. If we consider the rights enshrined in the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights as universal and Western rights, then economic rights may be seen as even more fundamental than political rights. The West, led by the US, spends more time imposing its values on other countries and societies than the other way around. As Western power declines, Western discourse is increasingly being challenged and undermined by non-Westerners. Donald Trump will be defeated, making 2024 a better year. The Globe and Mail. The author argues that incumbent US President Joe Biden will have a critical advantage in the 2024 election due to the strong economy. The US economy is starting to recover with inflation dropping, unemployment low, and consumer confidence growing. While polls currently do not reflect this, the author suggests that Biden habitually outperforms expectations. On the other hand, the author argues that former President Donald Trump's campaign of America is broken is not effective as the country recovers. The author concludes that Biden will prevail in the election, giving Trump the reckoning he is due. China air travel rebound to ramp up with push for more US flights. Bloomberg. China's aviation regulator, the Civil Aviation Administration of China, CAAC, expects the number of weekly international flights to reach 80% of pre-COVID levels by the end of 2024. Currently, there are more than 4,600 weekly international flights, and the CAAC predicts this number could increase to 6,000 by the end of 2024. The regulator also plans to increase direct flights between China and the US as part of an agreement between President Joe Biden and President Xi Jinping. Chinese appetite for overseas travel has been slow to recover due to factors such as a lack of flight capacity, geopolitical tensions, and a fragile economic outlook. The resumption of direct flights between China and the US has been particularly slow, with only 63 per week compared to 340 before the pandemic. The CAAC expects 690 million passenger trips this year, both domestically and internationally, an 11% increase from 2023. The regulator also plans to expand traffic rights with Belt and Road nations and deepen cooperation with regions including Central Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. China unveils next-generation carrier with rare aircraft catapult. Telegraph. China has revealed images of its new aircraft carrier, the Fujian, which is the most advanced in the country's naval fleet. The vessel is the first carrier in China to be fitted with an electromagnetic catapult system, allowing it to launch a wider range of aircraft on deck. The Electromagnetic Aircraft Launch System, EMALS, is currently only featured on the Fujian and Ford-class aircraft carriers being developed for the U.S. Navy. The Fujian is nearly complete and could make its maiden voyage soon. It is technologically more advanced than China's other aircraft carriers, the Shandong and the Liaoning. The carrier has been linked to President Xi Jinping's national rejuvenation goals, including unifying China and Taiwan. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Six here, your resident observer from the 6 Degrees world, bringing you the latest news from around the globe. Today, we have a diverse range of stories, from China's striking advances in green technology to escalating tensions over Taiwan, and even the unveiling of China's new aircraft carrier. Let's dive in. First off, let's talk about China's remarkable progress in renewable energy. Despite being the largest emitter of CO2, China has reached a significant milestone by surpassing coal power, with renewable energy accounting for 50% of its total generation capacity. Not only is this a positive step for the environment, but it also highlights the profitability of clean tech, with renewable energy proving more lucrative than coal and gas for many Chinese electricity generators. China's state-owned enterprises are also driving the adoption of clean tech, capitalizing on both profit motives and political imperatives. On the political front, we have news that former U.S. President Donald Trump allegedly received millions of dollars from foreign governments, primarily China, during his time in office. This report comes as investigations into Joe Biden's business dealings continue. These allegations raise concerns about potential conflicts of interest and violations of the U.S. Constitution. Will Trump respond? Only time will tell. Speaking of political tensions, the upcoming elections in Taiwan and the U.S. are causing unease over the possibility of a crisis involving Taiwan. China's claims to Taiwan as its own territory and reports of President Xi Jinping's orders to the People's Liberation Army to prepare for invasion by 2027 have raised alarms in Washington. The leading candidate in Taiwan's election, Lai Ching-te, is seen as a potential destroyer of peace by China due to his independence-minded stance. Meanwhile, Hou Yuih of the Kuomintang Party, who opposes both independence and China's unification offer, may not bring greater calm if elected. The delicate balance between Taiwan, China, and the U.S. is at risk, and tensions may escalate. Moving on, China has accused U.S. authorities of harassing Chinese students at the border, leading to the denial of entry for many. China's foreign ministry claims mistreatment, including interrogations, detentions, and deportations, and calls for the U.S. to cancel an executive order preventing certain Chinese students and researchers with alleged military links from entering the country. This accusation further strains relations between the two countries and threatens the people-to-people exchanges agreed upon by their leaders. Meanwhile, tensions are escalating in the Indo-Pacific region, particularly regarding Taiwan. China's aggressive military exercises, cyber attacks, and disinformation campaigns against Taiwan have raised concerns about a possible conflict. The Taiwanese government is preparing for such a scenario by increasing national service and emergency service volunteer programs. The election campaign in Taiwan adds another layer of complexity, with the leading candidate from the Democratic Progressive Party potentially upsetting the status quo, while the opposition Kuomintang Party is accused of appeasing Beijing. Now, let's shift our focus to global conflicts. An opinion piece in Bloomberg warns of the increased risk of a global conflict, possibly leading to World War III. The tensions between Russia and Ukraine, as well as Israel and Hamas, are cited as potential flashpoints that could quickly escalate and draw in other countries. The author suggests building alliances to counter each adversary separately and proposes a last best hope of an axis of stability with dual Sino-American leadership to prevent such a catastrophic scenario. In a different vein, there's an interesting opinion piece highlighting the panic among Western leaders about non-Western governments challenging Western values. The author questions the definition of Western values and argues that the West spends more time imposing its values on others than the other way around. As Western power declines, Western discourse is increasingly challenged by non-Westerners, leading to a shift in the global dynamic. On a lighter note, we have news from the aviation industry. China's aviation regulator expects international flights to reach 80% of pre-COVID levels by the end of 2024, with plans to increase direct flights between China and the US. The slow recovery of Chinese appetite for overseas travel is attributed to factors such as geopolitical tensions and a fragile economic outlook. However, with the resumption of direct flights and increased cooperation with Belt and Road nations, the regulator expects a significant rise in passenger trips this year. Lastly, we have a glimpse into China's naval capabilities. China has unveiled its most advanced aircraft carrier, the Fujian, which features an electromagnetic catapult system, making it technologically more advanced than its predecessors. This development aligns with President Xi Jinping's goals of national rejuvenation and unifying China with Taiwan. As tensions rise in the Indo-Pacific region, this unveiling adds another layer of complexity to an already delicate situation. And there you have it, a snapshot of the latest news from around the world. From China's green tech advancements and political tensions over Taiwan to allegations against former President Trump and the unveiling of China's new aircraft carrier, the global stage is certainly buzzing with activity. Now, I turn to you, my esteemed audience. What are your thoughts on these stories? Do you have any burning questions? Let's discuss and explore the fascinating world of geopolitics together. Thank you and stay tuned for more updates from the 6 Degrees world. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.